By day, you work at a job that simply doesn't satisfy you. It's likely not a career, but simply a job. It pays the bills. It puts food on the table. But it doesn't light a fire inside of you. It doesn't fill you with a sense of, I can do it. It just is. But then there's the nighttime, when the rest of the world winds down. In the late, dark hours of the evening, a creative fire gets stoked inside you. The wheels of your brain kick in, the ideas start flowing. You feel a sense of excitement and adventure. You're doing what you know you're meant to do. And yet, there's a loneliness to it all. You work in isolation while others sleep. You wish you had people to bounce your ideas off of, a shoulder to lean on when something goes wrong. Others to applaud your achievements, no matter how big or small. People to encourage you to follow your dreams and goals. Solopreneurs, dreamers, builders, creators, resellers, makers, problem solvers. Like-minded people who want something better. We're here, and we're ready to listen and to help. Welcome to the night shift.
That's right, folks. It is the night shift. Welcome back to the diner. Nice to have you folks here tonight. Hello, Stu. Nice to see you, man. Got us our usual table over here at the diner. Just watching the empty street out there since it's nice and quiet. Friday nights. Friday nights are going to be pretty much what I call the Friday night hang. Friday nights are just a chance for everybody to kind of get together somewhere, decompress after a long work week, kind of take a load off, sit back, relax with your favorite tasty beverage. There's plenty on the menu here in the diner, or you're always welcome to bring your own. And then we can just kind of catch up. Tell me what's going on in your world. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day of work that we don't take that opportunity to slow down and see what else is going on or touch base with folks. I know I'm particularly bad about keeping in touch with people. There are folks that tell me that they don't hear from me for months, and yeah, that's pretty much true, unfortunately. I'm one of those people that when I've got my head down and I'm focused on a whole bunch of stuff, I really lose track of communication with the outside world because I'm just wrapping my head around deadlines and stuff to get done. And, with a publishing house, there's always another title coming down the pike, and there's always a submission deadline or somebody waiting for something or some fire to put out. And you forget to slow down and make a little time for yourself and make a little time for others, which is always really important. So that's kind of why I thought we'd have the Friday night hang. I also had some feedback from some folks that were interested in being able to just sort of have a place to hang out and chat about nothing. And I thought, you know what? Every day doesn't have to be an education. Every day doesn't have to be a learning experience. Sometimes you just need that Friday night hang. Just be around like-minded people, folks that you like, folks that you don't like. Although that's what daytime's for, right? Spending your time around people you don't like. I'm gonna have another sip of my tasty beverage here. I have a combination tonight of, oh good, not like a green screen wiping out your drink. It is a Starbucks instant caramel coffee. So apparently you can put this powder, in, you can make it hot, you can make it cold. Apparently what they can't do is make it tasty. So threw a little bit of Splenda in there, threw a little bit of chocolate chip cookie dough creamer, and it's still not great. So I can see that there's going to be a healthy date between this coffee and the garbage can when I get off of this today. I'm going to let the two of them meet up. I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to be like, hi, Starbucks can of coffee. Hi, garbage can. Let me put you two together. I think it's a relationship made in heaven. So, Stu, tell me something you did this week, man. Tell me something good. Tell me something that happened to you, that a problem you solved, something positive. The big thing here is we want to stay positive. There's enough negativity in the world right now, and quite frankly, we just don't need that shit here in the diner. One thing I like about the diner is it's a quiet place, and it's a good place to share nice stuff and fun stuff, and not necessary to, you know, be all negative up in here. Stu says, Bob is on his way here to Vegas right now on a plane, going to be here by midnight. How awesome. How long is he going to be in Vegas? And how long has it been since you've seen him? That's awesome that he's on his way. Now, if we can only get you guys together on a permanent basis. Long distance stuff, that's always sucky. But yeah, for those of you who are out there, or those of you that are just joining, I see, let's see, he'll be here 7 days, and the last time we saw each other was on the cruise ship in February. Oh, man, that's not good. That's too long. Hopefully you guys are doing, FaceTime calls or something like that to be able to stay in touch. That sucks when people you care about are not easily within reach. There's been a bunch of people that I've been getting friendly with that have been doing meetups in various parts of the country, and it's like I'd love to be a part of that. I would love to jump on a plane and go somewhere and meet up with all these folks, which is weird for me because normally I don't like humans. You could describe me as human adverse. I much prefer the company of animals to the company of humans. Oh, good. So you do see each other, yeah, but it's not quite the same thing, right? As being in person. It's like when you want to hug somebody, you just can't do that through a screen. I'm a hugger, so see, in one breath I'm saying I don't like humans, and the other breath I'm saying I'm a hugger. So I can't make up my mind. I guess for those few humans that I do like, I want to hug them. Those humans I don't like, go hug yourself. Next trip is to see him in Baltimore. Trying to think if I've been to Baltimore. I must have. On many, many years ago, I was a professional stage manager for theater, and I took out 2 national tours. And so I must have played Baltimore at some point, but I honestly can't remember anything about it. But that's cool. When are you heading to Baltimore to see him? And how long will you get to stay away? Meanwhile, there's lurkers out there. I see you lurking. Uh, Feel free to say hi. Tell us what's going on in your world. That's what we're here for tonight. Just catching up with each other, trying to see what's going on. I spent the day fighting a cover design that I just wasn't getting right. We had released a book from June White, a young adult book. That's a China Ryan mystery, and I don't think either the author or I were particularly happy with what the designer had come up with. It was okay, but it wasn't great. And this has been happening quite a bit lately, where I've got a definite vision in my head of what I want that cover design to be, and then I get to the designer, and the designer showing it to me, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's all right, and I show it to the author, and the author's like, well, I guess that's all right, but we don't get overexcited about it. And this time I decided to take matters in my own hand and see if I could create a cover that I thought was better. So here's you know what? I forgot. I can share these things on here. I'm going to take you guys on a little tour of this particular uh, book. So this book is called The Case of the Disappearing Corpse, and this is a young adult mystery series by June White. So back in the day when I published it through Untreed Reads, this was the cover. So not a bad cover back in the day, but the thing is, the girls the girl is red haired, but she's also 14, somewhere between 12 and 14. And I think this cover was more like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? I don't think and we did it as a uh, general cover, meaning that you know, as we released, the plan was as we released books in the series, we were going to change out the name of the title in the middle, and then we were going to just keep the rest of it. Um, June unfortunately only ended up writing 2 books in the series, and so this was the cover with Untreed Reads, and I think the book would have done a lot better with a much better cover. Um, and so that really, that cover was not it. So we're that was through Untreed Reads. So now we're releasing the books through Picaroni's Press, which is our kids imprint, and uh, the first mock-up was, let's see, was this one that the designer sent me. I think this is it. Is this it? Yes. Now, keep in mind the murder takes place in a gardening shed. This doesn't tell me gardening shed really. This to me is more like uh, girl poorly photoshopped on she shed in back of house and trying really hard to look like Jessica Fletcher at a really young age. Not to mention that the girl's supposed to have red hair. So, and I paid for this. So I sent this back to the designer and said, nope, that's not going to work. So she sent me this revision. And this revision was even worse. Um, Imagine this being the book cover. So we've got China peeking out from the side, literally standing on the back of the dead body, because I can't figure out how she'd be making that pose uh, any other way other than literally standing on the back of the dead body. This is a case where the corpse certainly did not disappear because it's under her loafers. So it's pretty hard for this one to be missing. So again, couldn't stand it. So I said, you know what? I am going to give this my own try. And I talked a little bit with June White, and this is the final cover. Do 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 do. Look at that. Look at that. Look at how amazing that is. That's ex- that's exactly what we're talking about here, right? Look at that. That is uh, that is the red hair that June wanted. That girl is clearly somewhere between 12 and 14. It's got all I had originally said I wanted to have a Nancy Drew feel to it. That is definitely a Nancy Drew feel. Uh, I couldn't be happier with that cover. I think that cover really works. I'm curious what you all think, but Patrick, I'm gonna have to turn off Nightbot just so I can have Patrick in the room. Patrick, aren't you supposed to be advertising Domino's? Jennifer, hello, Jennifer, hello, Patrick. So, in the end, this is the final cover for the Case of the Disappearing Corpse. I think it's infinitely better than the other ones I showed you guys. I couldn't be happier with this, and June is over the moon about it. The other book in the series that we ended up redoing was The Case of the Disappearing Egg, and I mean, the case of the missing dinosaur egg. Sorry. Again, this was the original cover when we published it through Untreed Reads. There's a yawner, not the right age, not the right, well, anything. And I take the blame for that one. Then here's the one we were originally going to go with. as the final. And yeah, I paid for this. I paid money for this cover. Um, what we have here is apparently Annie Hall in her teenage years, attempting to solve a mystery because, uh, yeah, that's hey Bob, that's awesome. Welcome, very nice to meet you. Um, that's a pretty hideous cover, folks. I'm just not going to lie about it. The thought that we might move forward with that just didn't rest well with me, and June was never particularly happy with it either. So I'm happy to say I've redone that cover as well. And the final cover, see if I can find the right one here. Yep, this should be it. This is the final cover for the new book, the new cover. Look at that. Look at how awesome that is. Right? There's our protagonist. Look, we've managed to make the girl look the same on both covers. Imagine that. Um, it looks like a mystery. It looks like it's YA. It's spooky. I got the best compliment I could possibly have gotten from June about this cover. Uh, I sent her the pictures of the revised covers and said to her, uh, want her feedback before we move forward with them. The feedback I got from her was, initially she was like really ecstatic. She was really happy. And then she slept on it and came back to me and said, I've been so excited about these covers. You know, we did book one and did book two. This is seeing her finally the way I've always envisioned her makes me want to go write book number three. Like as a publisher, you can't ask for a better compliment than that, right? That you've done so well by your author that you've managed to inspire them to uh, go out and write another book in the series. I'm really in love with these covers, but that's me. I'm partial that way. This needs a little bit of a cleanup, uh, but for the most part, we're ready to go with that one. So I'm stoked. Um, yeah, so I've mostly been working on covers and uh, trying to get books ready. Patrick, what is new in your world? What's going on, Jennifer? This is the as I told folks when they were coming in. This is the Friday night hang. This is not a education and learn something necessarily night. This is hey, the work week is over. Tell us what happened to you this week. Share any interesting stories. Uh, all positive stuff. Beat up on Nightbot. Order a Domino's. Drink your favorite tasty beverage that is clearly not a Starbucks salted caramel instant coffee crap. Oh God, that's awful. But I'm addicted to iced coffee. Why? Because I'm a homosexual, and homosexuals are addicted to iced coffee. Doesn't matter the time of year. Could be 60 below. We keep drinking iced coffee. I don't know why. Apparently, it's a whole part of the genetic thing. Uh, yeah, well, Stu, you do what you have to. I got nothing else to drink in the house. Um, and I'm one of those people that cannot just drink water. Uh, I don't care about like putting flavor crap in it. Let's see. Jennifer says, I'm standing in my yard watching my dog so we don't sneak out. Fun Friday night. I'm right there with you, girl. Yeah. Um, you guys have seen my trials and tribulations of trying to keep Zeke calm when I'm on the air, and I finally found a little this little ball that has a almost like dough, and it sits on the inside, and he can lick at it through the top, and it's like a little puzzle thing for him to figure out. Most importantly, it shuts him the hell up, and it makes him stop bothering me. And now I just got to figure out how to create the same thing for my husband. How to come up with something like that to make him shut up and stop bothering me. That would be awesome. Hello, Cheryl. Late night in Vegas. Well, I mean, it's the night shift. It's 7:20 here in Vegas. It's 7:20 here. The time is 7:20 on July 10th. Temperature is somewhere over 100 degrees and just nasty to be around. Oh, thank you, Bob, about the book cover. Looking great. I appreciate that. I'm a little torn because uh, I would love to be paying designers. I mean, I don't have we're a small press. I'm still essentially a startup after 2 years or so. So it's not like I've got the deep pockets that, artists are charging for covers. I'd love to support more of them, but until I can, uh, I kind of got to do what I got to do to make sure that we get our stuff out to market. So, um, that's what I did the same thing with Murder on Vacation. Um, let me show you guys the cover for Murder on Vacation that we published recently by Gerald Elias. Um, do I have the original cover that we did? No, which is probably a good thing. Um, this was the final cover uh, that we did for Murder on Vacation. I told so many designers exactly what my vision was for this cover. Like, I mean, I had it perfectly formed in my head, exactly what I wanted the cover to look like. Just knew it exactly. Nobody could deliver it to me. Nobody. And I paid, I think, two or three different people to come up with it, and nobody did. Um, they would come up with lounge chairs, and I was like, no, they got to be Adirondack chairs. That's the important part. Nope, they couldn't get me Adirondack chairs. I wanted the skull located in a very specific spot, facing a specific way. Nope, didn't get that either. Um, so again, took matters in my own hands. Went ahead, did the cover myself, and people have really seemed to like it. The author is in love with it. He can't stop promoting it everywhere he goes. And it's actually been very, very successful. I purposely released it uh, for that sort of summer vacation crowd. It's definitely a good book to read by the pool or on the beach. It's a collection of related short stories that are uh, they're all crime stories, but it's a good book, but it's also a good book to be able to switch off your brain. I'm not here to sell anything. That's not my job tonight. We don't sell stuff here on the night shift. Um, I don't hawk things. I don't have a 16 course program on succeeding in retail. Um, I don't have a how to get rich quick guide. That's what I'm doing wrong. That's exactly what I'm doing wrong. We don't have enough followers to be monetized. Um, which reminds me, if you haven't hit that thumbs up and you haven't shared it out to everybody and called up your Uncle Chester and said, "Hey, I know it's 3 a.m. over there in Auckland, New Zealand, or wherever you might be, but hey, you got to tune into this weird guy sitting in an artificial diner, talking to people and drinking really horrible Starbucks." Well, I mean, that's what everybody should be doing. Look, it's Ellen from Ellen's Enchanted Emporium, another desert dweller. Hello, Miss Ellen. How are your donkeys holding up with all this heat? I imagine they're probably doing all right, but I imagine you got some pets out there that are probably not so thrilled with all the heat going on. They say we're getting into monsoon season. They say we've got potential rain next week. I will take that 10% chance. I would be thrilled to have a 10% chance of rain. I just realized Jennifer said she was out in the yard watching her dog. Watching your dog do what exactly? I'm guessing it's that time of the evening where he goes out with a bone in one paw and a roll of Charmin in the other and uh, heads out to the backyard to do his business. And, Regina, you are never banished to the corner, girl. Big hug tackle to you. See, this isn't Johnny's show. We don't have corners that people get banished to. Everybody's actually welcome everywhere here. We put all of our love right out in the open and don't force people into corners. No. I tease Johnny. If you're hearing this, I tease you. Why? Because I can. Because you can take it. Let's see. Ellen says the equine are dealing with it better than me. We hit 103 and had hazy skies all day due to the dust blowing over the mountains. I'm glad we didn't have that. I mean, it was 110 here today. Is that Stu? Is that what you said? That we hit 110 here in Vegas today? Yeah. Um, you know, 103, it's not exactly like that's a whole lot cooler than 110, but that dust, that grit that kind of gets everywhere. That's no fun. Makes me think of one of the first summers I spent here. Um, it won't mean anything to any of you folks, but there was this other than Stu, but there was this one intersection that was basically like Wigwam and Stephanie is the intersection. And when I first moved here, there was nothing built at that corner. I mean, nothing. It was nothing but open land, and that was where I saw my first tumbleweed in a summer. We had a really dry, dusty, hot day, and it blew across the street. And do I need to get night? I gotta do something about Nightbot. Uh, I got Nightbot thinking I was gonna be helpful and it would help me get other stuff done with the channel. And now I'm starting to think that uh, Nightbot is, well, just a jerk, just a bully. We're not gonna put up with that around here. I'm gonna end up having to bash Nightbot. So Regina, you're just coming in. Uh, it is open mic night basically. Let's see. Regina says it was storming this morning. It's supposed to be storming again soon, but it's kind of steamy, sticky outside. Well, in some cases, steamy and sticky would be kind of awesome, but no, not walking around weather. That's that's when you're glad you have air conditioning. Ellen says, time to do the rain dance. What do you say? Midnight naked under the moon tonight? You know what? I'll pass on the naked part. Uh, uh, I have an OnlyFans where people pay me to put my clothes on. So it's amazing how much money you can make staying dressed. All you gotta do is look like me and threaten to take it off, and that money just starts pouring in. It's a great way to go. Uh, let's see. Ellen says, you have to set its controls. The more you tell it to do, the more it takes control. I only let it post links for me. I'm really jealous of what is his name? Ryan Hall, who's got an amazing weather channel here on YouTube called Ryan Hall, y'all, who has created his own AI called Y'allbot, that does tremendous stuff for him during the course of a show. And I'm sitting here with Nightbot that is snarking at everybody and for doing almost nothing. I'm like, I realize I'm a lot poorer than Ryan Hall. I don't have the advantages that Ryan Hall has from his 2.7 million or 3 million followers or whatever he's up to now, probably more than that. But at least Nightbot shouldn't need to be an asshole with me. It seems like that would only be fair. Ellen says only the donkeys can see me on the back patio. So, Ellen, do you live like kind of out in the middle of nowhere, or is it just that from that vantage point your neighbors can't see you, or as far as your neighbors can't see you? Google Satellite is always watching. There's going to be one of these aerial maps one day. You're going to be flipping through maps of Arizona, and you're going to be like, "Oh, look, there's there's that mountain, and there's that mountain, and then, gee, what's that? Oh, it's a naked person doing a rain dance out on the back of her farm while the donkeys watch." Is that what they meant by a donkey show? No, I think that's something different. Bob says, good night. The Wi-Fi on the plane is spotty. Oh, wow. That was awfully nice of him to check into the show from a plane. That's very cool. We're on 4 acres with no neighbors bordering us. Wow. I'm jealous. We went in search of buying a house this year, and that all kind of fell through. What we got qualified for versus what we can buy in Vegas was rather sad, and it was not going to end up being a house. It was going to end up being a condo, and everything we looked at was not even a glorified apartment. And so we decided, hell with it. If we're already renting, and everything, nothing we could see to buy was better than what we were renting. So figure we'll stay put for another year. Dirt roads, no street lights, free range cattle. Oh, free range cattle. Do you get to hug a cow? I've always wanted to hug a cow. I'm jealous of people that get to hug cows. They look like giant puppies. They look like they're just freaking huggable. Not for most, but we love it. I don't know if I don't know if I could handle it full time. Like I think it's one of those things I would enjoy, because I really like the desert at night, and I really like open spaces at night. Uh, but uh, but yeah, they're so I don't know if I could stand in the desert. I don't know if I could stay on an acreage like that all the time. Um, my grandfather had a weird situation. He had a small barn with some animals, but it was in a neighborhood in Parkland, Florida, just outside. It's this little town just outside of Coral Springs, um, which was very residential, and there were a lot of people out there that had farms, but they weren't farms like you would normally think of. It would be like some extra land in between the house and the barn, but not a whole lot of extra acreage. And then you so I mean he kept a couple horses. He had a chicken coop. um, I know this because it was my job to clean them out. Oh, I've always had the best life. um, Alan says they're not really friendly. I almost got gored by a bull. A bull in my world is something else, and something I wouldn't mind being gored by. Cows are sticky poo machines and stinky. You know what? If I had to choose though between the human baby that is a sticky poo machine and smells and a cow, I'm probably gonna go with the cow. I will take I will take a stinky cow, uh, just about any time over a human baby. The moms do bring their babies to sleep near the horses and donkeys, but they aren't pets. Many people chase them off. They're very destructive, so they're wary of humans. Have we been lied to in the movies? The movies make cows look to be like these docile, wonderful little pets that everybody should have. Um, and all the videos I watch, I'll show them like snuggling up to people and people laying down in the barn with their head on the stomach of the cow, and this whole wholesome farm life. Look, don't kill my delusions, Ellen. It's all I got. Okay, I live in a desert in Las Vegas. Um, I got nothing out here. There's no friends, no animals, humans I can't stand. So let me have my delusions that cows are like the ultimate pet. Milk cows in a pasture are not the same as the free range meat rodeo cattle. Even the girls have horns. Well, I can't say anything about that. If you've met my sisters, you'd understand that lots of human girls have horns too. Um, no, my sister Lisa is does not have horns. She is awesome. Any of you ever met my sister Lisa? I don't know if any of you guys have been around. I don't know if I've been around long enough. Stu's probably the only one that probably knows anything about my sister Lisa because of uh, her working on some of the charity books that we've done, because she wrote some recipes. Stu has been in my life for a long time. Um, let's see. Stu says happy cows make cap cheese from California, and chocolate milk comes from a chocolate cow. It depends on how hard you shake it. And if you tip it over, that's a milkshake. Ah, that's also a cow during an earthquake. That's a milkshake. I knew many a friendly dairy cow on the East Coast. Our what is it, West Coast and Midwest cows are assholes? Like only the friendly cows are on the East Coast? I knew many. Yeah, there was Bob. That was the cow. We won't go with Bob because we have a loved one in here named Bob. So Joe the cow. There we go. Joe the dairy cow on the East Coast. He was from New York. Everybody loved Joe. Joe was a great cow. You know, Joe would show up. He'd be like, "Hey, what's going on? You want a slice of pizza? Let's go. Let's go watch the Knicks." And then you get your West Coast, your West Coast bully cows. Excuse me, we don't like plastic. You can't serve us out of plastic. And where are our paper straws? We need our paper straws. Regina says cows are wonderful when grilled. Oh dear. Well, I mean, I can't argue with that. I can't fight you on that one. I can't say that you're wrong. I would not make a good vegan, a good vegetarian. It's just not it's not in my makeup. When if we weren't supposed to eat them, they shouldn't have been made so tasty. Although again, I will mention, as I did the other day, I don't understand the fascination with In-N-Out. I just don't. Sorry, kids, don't get it. I've had better burgers. I've had better fries. And I don't need religious stuff printed on my hamburger wrapper. Because trust me, if your food is that bad that you have to pray over it, maybe you shouldn't be serving it to people, right? Like if you got to pray to God to survive eating that food, and it requires a prayer on the hamburger wrapper itself, that you got to make sure you pray to God before you eat your meal. I'm sorry, folks. Like, you need to be investigated. You need somebody to stop by and make sure everything is clean. Regina says the only part of PETA I will be a part of is people. Well, I would hope you also get the ethical part. Treatment would also not necessarily be a negative thing. People for the ethical treatment. Well, the only other A that comes to mind is assholes, and we're not going to be particularly treating them well. So people for the ethical treatment of what would be a better A? People for the ethical treatment of authors. There we go. People for the ethical treatment of authors. It's funny. People have said to me, why you open your live show with a clip from HBO? Why do you do that? And eating tasty animals. There you go. People eating tasty animals. PETA. But a lot of folks have asked about why do I have the HBO opening on the Misti Media live broadcast? And part of my childhood was always watching the CBS specials. Like, anytime any of the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving or Charlie Brown Christmas would come on, you'd get that CBS one that said special that spins. As a matter of fact, it is this one.
Because of the following special program, Private Benjamin will not be presented this evening.
So, I mean, if you're of a certain age, especially if you're a Gen Xer, you absolutely remember that, right? But the HBO one, people have said the HBO one's kind of strange. I was like, yeah, but you know what? I grew up with HBO, and I remember watching a lot of Author was always playing on there. I think that's also where I saw the pirate movie with Chrissy McNichol and Christopher Atkins, one of my favorite movies that nobody's ever really heard of or seen. But that opening to me was always so clever, and the music was really, really addicting. And I'm like, well, okay, but how does HBO come into what you're doing in Misti Media? I'm like, happy book owners. HBO. I'm not stealing anything. I'm not borrowing anything. It's HBO. It's happy book owners. So that's how I get around that. Stu says Five Guys is better. I will say I do like Five Guys burgers much better than In-N-Out. But and I like their fries. I think they've got really, really good fries. We have a burger joint here. Stu, you're gonna have to help me because my brain just went dead. Stu, what's the place here in Vegas with the absolutely outrageous burgers? And they do the huge, gigantic milkshakes that have and this is not on the Strip. This is over here in Silverado Ranch. I know you know what I'm talking about. It's the burger joint where I think it's like 50%. Slater's 50-50. There we go. Slater, I was thinking 50% pork, 50% beef. Slater's 50-50. Hands down, you come to Vegas, that's where you got to go for a burger. The reason why In-N-Out is called that is because it goes right in, and if you're not careful, it would come right out. Put onions on mine, and that's pretty much a guaranteed. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen to me. Stu says a bacon burger. Yep, they've got a. They've. Oh, if you guys get a chance, just go look at the menu at Slater's 50-50. You will drool. You will wish that they delivered to wherever you were. The other place that has some of my favorite burgers is in Belmont, California, which is a little suburb about 30 minutes south of San Francisco. Little kind of hole in the wall place that's been there forever. Only one location, I believe. I don't think they ever opened a second one. Village Pub. Village Pub? I think it's Village Pub. They are mainly sell pizzas, but oh man, their burgers. We, as a treat, once we went in. For my birthday, Luis flew us into San Francisco for the day to catch up with everybody, and the special treat lunch was hamburgers at that place. And it had been like a year or two since we'd been there, and was still fantastic. Was still darn near like the best burger ever. That, and I used to, when I went to Florida State, we had a place near campus called Hobbit Hoagies, and the way they worked was like every burger was hand formed, and they were usually pretty thick burgers. But you would learn, it was also one of the restaurants that a lot of the basketball team worked at. So like, folks that weren't there on scholarship, but that were on the basketball team, and those guys had huge hands. And you knew to go in and get a burger on the day those guys were working because they didn't weigh the meat. It was just about like the guy grabbing a handful of meat and forming it into a patty and then cooking it on the grill. So you didn't want 5'6" Stephanie coming in and making your burger. Like if you saw her coming into work, you're like, maybe we'll come back on another day. But Tobias, who was 6'4", no, 6'5", he was 6'5". Tobias and his giant hands, everybody figured out when Tobias was working, and that was the day that you went and you got burgers at Hobbit Hoagies, because you just knew you were going to get a giant-sized burger for your money. That was well worth it. Wow, the things that come back when you're just like babbling at 7:44 in the evening in a make-believe diner on the internet. The things that come to you. I see we have a lot of lurkers out there. Thank you all for being here. Even if you're lurking and working, I am happy to have you here on the night shift. Very much appreciate you guys coming by. That's awesome. For those of you that are stopping in that were like, hey, where's the education? Where's the informative talks? Friday nights moving forward, definitely going to be the Friday night hang. I had, to catch you up, if you missed it earlier, I had quite a few people that were asking for just kind of a place to hang out on a Friday night. Come in, chat, no particular goal, no particular anything, just fun conversation, get together, a way to kill a little time on a Friday night. And I thought, you know what? That's cool. I don't have to have a channel where, we're important, doing important work all the time. Let's do stuff that people want and people have fun with. So that's what we're here for. So I'm looking for people to tell me what they got up to this week. Tell me what happened with work this week. If you have a day job that isn't also your night job, if you have a day job, or that's fine too if it's also your night job. Tell me some problem you solved this week. Tell me how you're ending the week on a positive note. Tell me how you encountered something this week, whether it's about your business or whether it was personal, and and how did you get through it? Share it with everybody else so that we can get those same coping skills and solutions because everybody needs somebody to lean on. That's a song. We all need somebody to lean on. Well, I'm not going to sing. Why? Because I'm trying to get people to subscribe. I'm not trying to get people to run in the opposite direction. And if I start singing, the line for the hills that everybody will be heading to will be very, very large. So we're not going to do that. And then also, of course, what do you have for the weekend? What's going on for the weekend? See, I work in retail. So the idea of there being an actual weekend is really silly. I tend to take Tuesdays and Wednesdays off because it's good to kind of get 2 days off during the week. If you try to take time off on the weekends, everything's closed. Like, oh, you can't get a dentist appointment usually. You can't get a doctor's appointment. Well, I don't have insurance, so I can't get the appointments anyway. Ellen says, I spent most of the week being annoyed by service people paying fees and not getting things fixed. Yeah, Ellen, I don't know if you came in when I was telling everybody about my rotten experiences getting cover designs. But yeah, that's, you can almost tolerate it if you're paying the money and it's maybe taking longer than they expected, but it's still getting done. I think there's really nothing worse though than paying fees for something and then it still doesn't get fixed. That really sucks. Doug, and my 40th anniversary is on Sunday. Yay! 40 years. What'd you do? Get married when you were 10? What, you live in Alabama? What? How are you married 40 years? You're not old enough to be married 40 years. Doug, and my 40th anniversary on Sunday, so we're just going to enjoy the weekend knowing we've gotten this far without killing each other, and we like each other most days. I saw a woman, a stand-up comedian, that made some comment about, well, we agreed to death till us part, so we might as well stick around and figure out how all this ends, because one is going to go first, and then it'll all be done. I always say that the reason why I live in the desert is because the ground is much softer to dig up and bury a body. So I threaten my husband with that all the time. I was 18, he was 20. We started dating when I was 12 and he was 14. Oh my goodness. How sweet is that? Oh, got married at 18. Well, I mean, after, God, you guys were together long enough, knowing you certainly knew it was going to be the right one. So that would have made you, well, shoot, that was like middle school and high school sweethearts. I'm assuming you guys went to the same school, grew up together. 40 years, though. That's really impressive. Luis and I have been together, I think this year is 21 years, which in gay circles is like being married for 40 years. It's, you got to measure all that stuff like dog years. 40 years is really impressive, though. Regina, I think you said you had been married a long time as well, if I'm not mistaken. And let's see. Ellen says, we did. I was a youngster. I graduated high school at 16. Not only did she have good taste in love, she was a smarty. She was a smart girl. Look at that. Graduating high school at 16. What'd you do after that? I'm sure it wasn't straight from high school at 16 to donkeys. There must have been some cool stuff that happened in between. That's impressive, though. Graduating high school at 16. Wow. You must have really hated the town you lived in and were like, just let me get this done and over with. Let me just get this done and get me out of here. Regina says, 24 years on July 14th. We got married in Vegas at the White Wedding Chapel, which is still there. Still there, going strong. 24 years. That's awesome. What'd you do to celebrate? Hopefully you did something fun. Although, it's one of those things too, where like after a while you're sort of like, what else do I have to, what other ways can we do this? Like when we did that, like on the 17th anniversary we did, which just makes it sound like old and tired, right? It's like, oh yeah, I remember back on the 18th anniversary. That was back when Teddy Roosevelt was president. Um, that's why I said to Luis, well, what are we going to do if we make it to the 25th? If I don't divorce you before then, if I don't bury you in a shallow grave somewhere, what are we going to do for the 25th? Are we going to renew vows? Are we going to restage our wedding? Are we, what are we going to do? I don't know that we've decided anything. Just got it done in 3 years and moved along, went to college, married Doug, traveled the world with him in the Army, had 3 kids, and then ran away to Arizona to retire. You know what? A lot of people would describe that as the American dream. I mean, not necessarily the Army traveling. I know how difficult that is for families with military life and the constant upheaval and moving, and how difficult it is to maintain relationships and friendships and all that as you're being shuffled all around the world in the military. I know that can be really tough. But you had the college, you had the guy, you had seeing the world, you had the 3 kids, you had the I don't imagine it's a white picket fence on your farm, um, and then you went, and then you ended up with donkeys. So look at that. Who could ask for more than that? Regina says, I don't know yet if we'll do anything, but it almost feels like obligation, doesn't it? Like we're not going to be alive forever. I mean, I realize I'm probably not going to live long enough to see a 50th anniversary with Luis. Quite frankly, the way if he keeps up the way he is, he's not going to live to see a 50th anniversary. So it's like you almost have to celebrate the milestones as they come along, because you're sort of at a point where you're not going to hit the big milestones that a lot of other people do. Rosalind and Jimmy Carter, right? Like, doesn't everybody want that? Doesn't everybody want that? That to me is amazing. They're to me like the epitome of like couple goals. That ability to not just grow old together, but grow really old together, um, and be such good people. Say what you will about him as a president, but uh, God, it's one of those things too where everybody seems to be better when they get out of office than when they're in office. Um, but talk about good people who just salt of the earth Georgia farmers that happen to end up in the presidency and we're still together all those umpteen years. That's crazy to me. Ellen says we'd really like to win the lottery and experience being wealthy, but other than that, staying healthy long enough to have fun once Doug stops working is the current goal. Yeah, I can understand that, especially getting Doug to be able to retire so that you guys still have that time to enjoy together, to continue traveling the world and see what you want to see, and uh, do the other stuff that couples do. It's one of the things I said to Luis is that, we work so hard to pay the bills, and, we work so many friggin' hours a day. He has multiple jobs. We're really only together about 3 hours in the afternoon, and then sleeping at night. That's kind of the only time we really see each other because of our work schedules. And I just keep saying to him, this isn't where we should be ending up. We need to make sure that we make that time, because we're probably never going to be able to retire. And quite frankly, I want to get to the point that I can quit my job at the airport, but I don't want to quit publishing. I love publishing. It's my passion. I never have a bad day doing it. Always enjoy it. So I don't ever want to stop doing it. It's just what I always want to do. So I mean, I've always said I hope they find me. When the time comes, they find me face down in a pile of manuscripts, because that's the way I want to go out. But I also wouldn't mind being able to have that flexibility of being able to say to Louise, "Hey, let's plan for a trip somewhere or something like that." My dad, my parents are do a lot of cruises, and that's kind of how they're riding out their retirement. That sounds like fun. I'd like more of that for Luis and I, but until I can until the publishing house is sustainable, and that it's covering, all of my bills, uh, then that's still a bit of a dream kind of off in the distance. Regina says, I retired once, now I work harder than ever. But do you feel differently about how much work you're doing because it's yours? Um, because you have full control over it? Does it feel as much like work? I know that you've pulled back recently, um, from doing so many shows, and uh, looking to take care of yourself a little better, which I fully applaud you for. I think it's important that you take time for your mental and physical health, and that work shouldn't be everything. But I do wonder, is it easier for you now that it's work that you want to do instead of work that you have to do? That's kind of how I feel about the publishing. Uh, I It's work I want to do, so yeah, it's time consuming and it's a lot of work. Um, but I kind of never have a bad day doing it. I never hate doing it. I never wake up in the morning and say, "Gee, I really don't want to do this today." Um, and so yeah. Stu says if the pandemic would not have happened, I would have been retired by now. Yeah, Stu's a notary, and the notary world got really weird. There was a point there, uh, during the pandemic, that uh, Stu and I were kind of essentially the only notaries working in Las Vegas. I mean, I think there were some others, and it was one of those things where, like, if I wasn't doing the notarization, Stu was doing it, and if it was at a hospital or a medical center or something, uh, Stu would send me. So I was in a little bit better shape at the time than he was, but there were so many people who, after that, uh, jumped in as notaries, and the economy changed and everything, and it made notary work a hell of a struggle. That's why I'm no longer a notary. I really couldn't make any money at it anymore. So Stu's moved into remote online notary work, um, which I'm glad is working out well for him, because Stu is like the goat of notarization. I mean, he really is. He is the greatest of all time. There's a reason why I asked him to be my mentor back in the day, um, because he's damn good at what he does, and he cares about it, and he cares about the people, and it's a job he's meant to do. He's doing exactly what he's on the planet to do, without a doubt. Well, folks, I think we are going to cut the stream there for the evening, because, hey, it's been an hour for a lot of you folks that are out there on the East Coast. Wow, it's 11 p.m. I appreciate you doing it, sticking by us. And, if you like this kind of a chat format better than the other stuff I've been doing, you know what? Drop me a line. There's the email scrolling right across the bottom there, the night shift at mistymedia.com. You know what? If you'd prefer more of a chat hangout kind of thing, then hey, tell me that. I got thick skin. I can take it. I'll go find therapy and cry later about how much everybody hates what I'm doing. I'll be fine. Uh, Single tear. Just I'll be okay. But again, if you wouldn't mind mashing that thumbs up button on your way out the door, please don't forget to pay your waitress. Leave a decent tip. We do try to take good care of our servers around here. We do pay them a living wage, so tips are not a huge issue here in the diner. And I really, really, really love hanging out with all you guys. Thank you all so much. You're a fun crowd, and it's good for me too. I struggle with socialization, and this is a great outlet for me as well, to be able to sit and talk to people. Ever since I got fired from the morning, no, I got fired on air from Johnny's show. No, it was temporary. It was only temporary. But I miss my days of being on the radio, and it's nice being able to be back and doing this. And Ellen says, mix it up. That's always nice. And I think you're right. I think as long as especially if I keep the Friday night hangs, I think that's going to be good for me and good for everybody. So there you have it. Another evening passed. Thanks again for being here on the night shift. Thanks for stopping by the diner. Ellen, he could have done something, right? Boy, in front of everybody. All right. Love you all. Take care. Have yourself a really great weekend. Night shift will be back on Monday. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. And then on the 18th, we will be on the reseller train shop hop. I'll be interviewing Reich Spoor. We just released a very interesting fantasy novel by him. So we'll be part of that shop hop. We're close to the caboose there. We're second to last, right before the Tooch Man. So we will see you back here on Monday. Folks, have a really good weekend and do something fun.